3, 4, 6 billion people. I mean, there's a lot of people. Look at Gambia today. You're talking of almost about 2 million people. I mean, we need to feed ourselves.
There is a lot of untapped potential in the country's teeming mass of young people, most of whom are unemployed. The NYSS NEDI partnership, powered through their line ministry, is solely dedicated to this laudable and rewarded endeavor, which can bolster youth empowerment efforts. Modu Bajan, Grts, Sapo, Central River Region.
Bank Gambia Limited have been named the culture-friendly bank in the country by the Minister of Tourism and Culture, Fatoumata Diop Njie. That development came as the bank officially handed over the newly renovated roofs of the National Museum and perimeter fence, marking another step in the bank's effort to preserve the Gambia's cultural heritage. Rohibite reports.
Interventions in the preservation of the country's cultural heritage, Trust Bank Gambia Limited has handed over the newly renovated roofs of a National Museum building, which is half a century old, along with its perimeter fence as part of effort to safeguard the cultural elements that are kept safe in the museum. Trust Bank Gambia Limited is creating a feature for the past, where the words of the board chairman of the NCAC, Tijan Kamara also acknowledged their sense of appreciation of culture, which he believed was lacking, something that could be attributed to the poor patronage of the arts.
The way you were forthcoming in your intervention, they are not. So I want to believe that sometimes the funds may be there, the big name of the corporation may be there, but if you fail to realize one thing, then that's where the problem comes in. And that one thing that I'm referring to here is that aesthetics for the arts, that appreciation of arts and culture.
An institution entrusted with what many considered as one of the successful financial institutions, Trust Bank Gambia Limited was said to have recognized the significant role the center play in safeguarding the country's past for the consumption of present and future generations.
The adoption of the Wasu stone circles to symbolize the uniquely Gambian nature of our enterprise. The Wasu stone circles is the oldest and most recognizable UNESCO heritage sites in the Gambia, and of course, the NCAC are the custodians. We have also worked closely with the NCAC to create some unique content of our calendars in the last 5 years. We have also provided funding to the NCAC to do their brochures and also financing their recent archiving project.
The bank has in the past 5 years developed a fruitful and cooperative relationship with the National Center for Arts and Culture.
As culture is transversal phenomena and pervades all aspects of human endeavor and sustainable development, by supporting culture, Trust Bank is contributing to development of what all of us cherish as ours. There are no people or segment of society without culture. Thus, the most effective way to touch the hearts and minds of all is to support efforts aimed at preservation, conservation, promotion, celebration, and development of our national heritage.
There, the Minister of Tourism and Culture honored the bank for their numerous undertakings in supporting arts and culture in the country and decided to honor them with the name the Culture Friendly Bank.
The certificate is awarded by the National Center for Arts and Culture to Trust Bank Gambia Limited in recognition of invaluable contribution towards the preservation, promotion, development of arts and culture in the Gambia.
We have been really humbled, but extremely surprised by the minister when she announced her ministries and the National Council for Arts and Culture's decision to award Trust Bank the culture-friendly Bank of the Gambia.
The minister and other delegates were later guided on a tour of the renovated areas of the museum. The remarkable steps taken by Trust Bank Gambia Limited are moves applauded by many. However, officials of the National Center for Arts and Culture are calling on others to emulate such. Rohibite, Grts News.
That story by Rohibite takes us to our fourth break, but we'll be back with news from outside the Gambia after this break.
We wish you a Merry Christmas. We wish you a Merry Christmas. We wish you a Merry Christmas from GR.
Welcome back. More than 30,000 South Sudanese civilians are taking refuge in a UN compound in the capital, Juba. Fighting continues between soldiers who are divided, with some loyal to President Salva Kiir and others to former Vice President Riek Machar. CFI has more on that.
Those loyal to President Salva Kiir and those supporting the past president, Riek Machar. Once brothers in arms, they are of different ethnic origin. Never before have the confrontations seemed so bitter. Barack Obama spoke Thursday of a country on the precipice of a civil war. 20,000 people have taken shelter in the UN bases in the capital, 34,000 over the whole country.
There's absolutely no requirement for them to leave if they do not feel safe. So we maintain our policy and our mandate to keep them safe here.
The United Nations peacekeeping force patrols the capital, where activity has slowed down because of the fighting. Inhabitants speak here of how frightened they are. Since Sunday, at least 500 people have been killed in Juba. Violence is now spreading to the east of the country. On Thursday, the UN base at Aboko in the state of Jonglei was attacked. 2 Indian soldiers from the peacekeeping force were killed.
Russian President Vladimir Putin has pardoned Mikhail Khodorkovsky, who was once Russia's richest and a very outspoken critic of the Kremlin. He has been jailed for 10 years after being convicted of fraud. As we hear in this report by CFI, his release has raised more questions than answers for Mr. Putin.
Media announced on Friday that the ex-head of the Yukos oil company, Mikhail Khodorkovsky, had been freed from a prison colony near the Arctic Circle. In a surprise move on Thursday, Russian President Vladimir Putin announced that he would pardon Khodorkovsky. Putin then signed the decree granting Khodorkovsky clemency on Friday. Mikhail Khodorkovsky was convicted of fraud and embezzlement and has been in jail since his arrest in 2003.
He has already spent more than 10 years in jail. It is a severe punishment. He refers to circumstances of a humanitarian nature. His mother is ill. I will soon sign an order for his pardon.
Mikhail Khodorkovsky has been a strong critic of Putin, and his supporters say his arrest was politically motivated. He had repeatedly refused to ask for a pardon because he said it would be an admission of guilt. But on Thursday, President Putin said that Khodorkovsky asked for clemency. But the timing of the pardon is questionable.
It is not a coincidence that all of this is happening on the eve of the Winter Olympics. Because now many leaders refuse to come to our country.
On Thursday, President Vladimir Putin also announced that he would pardon 2 members of the punk band Pussy Riot. They were serving a 2-year prison term for staging an anti-Putin punk prayer in a cathedral in 2012. The Olympics being held in the Russian city Sochi begin in February, and analysts say the pardons are an attempt to improve the image of Russia's human rights record.
And before we take leave of you, a quick reminder of the day's top stories. The government of the Gambia has condemned recent upheaval in South Sudan and the Central African Republic. National Training Authority has convened a training seminar for personnel of various institutions in its quest for quality service delivery in the country. Over 30,000 South Sudanese civilians have sought sanctuary at the UN compound in Juba to escape the raging conflict between soldiers loyal to President Salva Kiir and his nemesis, former Vice President Riek Machar. And President Vladimir Putin has pardoned Russians Alogay and one fierce critic of Kremlin, Mikhail Khodorkovsky, 10 years since his sentencing for fraud. That was all in this edition of the news. Thanks for your time, and you enjoy a range of interesting programs.